Welcome
to the Age of Awakening.
Please identify yourself. Enter.
Hey, Triple P Nation, welcome back to the podcast where this week we're going to explore the tools, tactics, and strategies to help you achieve personal and business mastery. And we are on another week here of our Best of series. And the guest interview I get to bring to you yet again is Emily Williams. And I had Emily on the show, I think it was the second year. We had found each other through a networking group, and she was doing some incredible things, still is. In fact, she's really grown and kind of is breaking through all over the place. And I couldn't wait to have her on the show because she's really leading in the world, and particularly helping women achieve their dreams. She's the host of the I Heart My Life show podcast. She's a coach, speaker, and author of the best-selling book, I Heart My Life. And her passion is to help women leave the 9-to-5 job and start a business and make more money than ever before. And she's done that. She's done that with, hundreds and hundreds of women. And it's always great to hear, the feminine side, the male side. We have female guests, we have male guests. Each have a different approach, even have a different perspective from their background. And Emily certainly has a different perspective from her background that she's going to share with you today. So if being successful is something that you're interested in, if you ever thought about, maybe I want to open my own business, and maybe you're a female and you would like to learn how a female has done it, we can learn from, again, male and females, but great approach. Emily does a great job explaining how she achieved her success and how she can coach you to help you achieve your success. So sit back, enjoy this week's episode with Emily Williams. Hey, Triple P Nation, welcome back. As I mentioned, my guest today is Emily Williams. And Emily is a successful entrepreneur, business owner, coach, has her own podcast. She does it all. Emily, thank you so much for joining me this week on the Power, Passion, Prosperity podcast. Say hello to Triple P Nation.
Hello, Triple P Nation. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on because it seems to me like your focus is really entrepreneurial and helping people scale, helping people get started, no matter where they are on their entrepreneurial journey. And before we get to some of the details of how you help people do so, can you tell me how you actually get started in this business and what were you doing before? And, I'm sure it's an interesting story.
Totally. Yeah. So I always say there's one moment in particular where my whole life changed course and really led me on the path of entrepreneurship. And that was basically back in 2008. I had planned to go to Northwestern in Chicago to get a degree in psychology. And it was literally driving there. My mom was in the driver's seat. I was in the passenger seat. And I got this feeling in the pit of my stomach, like this was not the right next step for me. And I had no reason to think that. I had, planned out this whole thing. I had applied to 12 different schools around the country, decided I was going to go to this program and make it happen. But I just knew that something was off. So we actually turned the car around and went back to Ohio. And from that point onward, I fell into a major quarter life crisis and had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I ended up working at Starbucks, doing a bunch of odd jobs, and really just felt so terrible about myself because I'd always been an achiever and thought I was meant for something big, and then found myself without a path and no clarity. And around that same time, I actually went to London, England to visit a friend, and she showed me around the city, and I fell in love with what I saw and how I felt when I was in London. So when I was going through that quarter life crisis, I kept thinking, how amazing would it be to move to London? I really want to be in London. And that was weird because no one in my family has ever left Ohio. And to think I was just going to pick up and move there, it didn't make any sense whatsoever. But again, I was lost. So I just thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a shot. So I actually applied for a master's in nonfiction writing, which sounds random, but it'll make sense in a second, and got a student visa and was able to move to the UK. And I thought everything would start to transform at that point, but it really didn't. I didn't have any friends. I had, I was doing this master's degree, but really my purpose was still an enigma, and I was still searching for that something big. Now, a little bit over a year later, I ended up meeting my husband online, who you mentioned, James. And I also, soon after that, discovered the world of coaching. I was just looking at my email, and my friend sent me a message about Marie Forleo, which I'm sure your listeners are familiar with. And I saw her website and immediately had this second moment of my whole life changing course. And it was cheesy. It was kind of like that light bulb went off. But I knew that that was the thing I was searching for. And I knew that because I had been in a quarter life crisis myself and very recently discovered that I wanted to be a coach, okay, well, maybe I can help other people do the same. That was my thinking. And thus, I Heart My Life was born out of me not hearting my life for so many years and finally figuring out what it was I wanted to do and having the desire and purpose to help other women achieve the same thing.
Cool story. I love the quarter life crisis, how you describe that. I bet you there's a lot of women right now and young men are experiencing something very similar. And so the way you describe that is absolutely precious because it's not unusual, is it? To be at that point in your life and go, where the hell am I going? What am I doing?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we have so much choice. At least that's how I felt. There were a million different directions I could go in. And it took me a while to figure out that psychology was my thing. And then to think that that wasn't going to be a part of the plan and just feel like I was back at square one, that was really confusing. And I had tons of options, which of course is a blessing. But at the same time, it was confusing. And I didn't feel like I had that clarity around this is my thing. I have certainty and I'm going to pursue it.
So wanting to be a coach and helping people and knowing how are two different things. How did you get the know-how?
Great question. So after my big aha moment and realizing I wanted to do this, I kind of just moved full speed ahead and really had no idea what I was doing, but I decided that I was going to follow my heart. And that was really kind of what got me into this mess in the first place. And so I was going to follow my heart and believe that everything that I wanted was possible for me. And so my first step was coming up with the name of the company, which was I Heart My Life. Then my husband and I built the first version of the website together. He took my pictures and I quickly realized I had no clue what I was doing. So I needed to get somebody to help me. And so I discovered that there were programs out there, much like what we teach at I Heart My Life today, that would train me to be a coach and create the life that I wanted. And so my husband was my biggest supporter, and he actually lent me his credit card so I could invest in a program to teach me how to be a coach and set up my business. At the time, he was making about $35,000 a year. And this program that I wanted to join was $7,500. But he believed in me for whatever reason and gave me that credit card. And that really supported me in getting this off the ground and not only understanding the business strategy, but helping me think like an entrepreneur and also help me develop coaching skills because I had none. But I think, the point of me sharing that is I had this belief in myself and I had this desire. And that's really what fueled me. And I realized, what, that's important. And the rest of it I can learn and I can improve over time. And so I just really kept putting one foot in front of the other and trusting.
Talk about trust. I mean, being able to give you your credit card or James's credit card, $7,500 and believing in you speaks a lot to him. And of course, your ambition and passion to pursue, this new spark, that really was taking your life in a very different direction, probably than you ever dreamed that you were going to take, which is that inspiration where we never know it's going to come or at what moment it's going to come, and that's why I always talk about how important it is to live intentionally, because that's the only time when you can be aware of the messages that are coming from within or sometimes outside ourselves. They're saying and pulling us in a different direction. And unfortunately, many of us are not conscious of it and we miss the signals.
Exactly. Yeah. And I grew up with, my dad was a business owner and he always had coaches come to the house, but it was always, men in suits carrying little 3-ring binders. And so I didn't know that this world of coaching actually existed. And I'm so grateful that my friend sent me that email and I was aware enough to be paying attention to the signs. And I always tell people to follow your jealousy, because honestly, that was the first sign for me. I was really jealous of Marie Forleo. And I was like, I want what she has. She has an amazing career. She works with all these incredible clients. She looks beautiful. She gets to be fashionable. She has this TV show. And all of that at first made me really jealous and made me question, can I do this? Does she already have all the clients in the world? Is there anyone left for me? Like all this stuff that we don't like to admit. But then I realized, oh, okay, my jealousy is actually giving me clarity. And so I'm going to follow that.
I just had to write it down. You just noted. I absolutely had to write that. That is awesome. I love that. Follow your jealousy, because it really is telling you something about maybe what you're passionate or, where your desires might lie. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. What do we endeavor and we start on a new path, a new journey? Inevitably, the old programming and the old wiring, the old beliefs that have held us back previously start to come up. So we may think, I don't know, can I really do this? Will I be successful? Will I be able to figure out how to find clients? What were some of the limiting beliefs you might have had? Maybe you didn't have any, but my guess is you might have had one or two before you started that you had to overcome to get to the level of success you're experiencing now.
So I had a ton of mindset blocks. And one of the biggest ones was definitely around money and sales. So when I started my company, the first month I made about $442. And obviously I wanted to be making much more than that, but I didn't know how to do so. And so that was around the same time when I hired a coach to support me. And one of the big things that she talked about was money mindset. And that's now one of my biggest passions and something I coach my students on as well. And one of the biggest difference makers for me was getting over my fear of sales. And there was actually a period of time in my business in the beginning when I had 54 sales calls in a row and 53 no's in a row. And so call after call, I was getting on the phone and people were saying that they loved what I was selling, but it wasn't the right time. They didn't have the money. Someone even told me they didn't have time because they had to plan their daughter's birthday party. So I was getting all the excuses in the book. And I didn't know how to handle those objections. And I didn't know what to say when people basically showcase their fear. I didn't know that's what was happening. And so I would just be like, okay, no problem, bye. And that was the end of the conversation. So I had to quickly learn how to move past my own fear around talking about money, talking about investing, really going deep with people about their own fears. And that started with me uncovering some of my blocks and things like, we don't want to be too salesy. We don't want to be too pushy. We don't want to be full of ourselves. It's rude to talk about money. And I quickly realized this is not, it doesn't make any sense. How are we supposed to be good at money or making money, but we're not supposed to talk about money? And so all of the money stuff was something I worked through, thankfully, very early on in my business. And it's really what helped me skyrocket. We went from $442 to seven figures in my first 18 months. And I really attribute a lot of that to the mindset transformation that I personally went through.
So what action steps specifically did you take that you teach to overcome, whether it's sales or whatever other limiting belief that people may hold towards money? Is there a process that you teach that helped them work through that?
Yep. So everyone has a money story, but it's amazing to me, this was new information to me as well, but it's always amazing to me when I realize or I see that my clients don't actually know that they have thoughts and beliefs about money that are holding them back. So the first step is really to identify what those thoughts are. And so a lot of it could be judgments, it could be beliefs, and it's really what was passed down to you from your parents and your grandparents and from society, because our thoughts around this are normally formed by age 7 or 8. And then, of course, when we're teenagers, when we're just starting off into adulthood, there are experiences that we have with money that might rattle us a bit or cause us to create certain beliefs as well. But a lot of this is formed early on when we're children. And so it's really important that we identify all of those thoughts and beliefs that are holding us back and threatening to not allow us to go, to the next level and to actually create the wealth that we want to have. And so it's really a simple matter of looking at your mindset and asking yourself, what are my thoughts about money? Thinking about your experiences with money, even thinking about the amount of money you want to make. I often tell people to tell me what their amount is, their annual revenue goal. And then I say, okay, well, let's 10 times that. And it's very easy to quickly see what their limiting beliefs are when they think about 10 timesing their goal. So we really just want to understand at first, what is that belief? What is that limitation that's actually there? And then we obviously focus on transforming it. And for me, one of the biggest things that helped me do this, and I think helps our students as well, is looking at other people who have what it is that you're looking to create and recognizing they're just humans having a human experience. And if they can do it, you can do it too. So I have something called my why not me method. And so it really applies to everything. If you want to buy a bigger house, ask yourself, well, why not me? And listen for the answer. And that answer is your limiting belief. And we want to figure out how to transform that and recognize that someone else is out there buying the bigger house. Someone is creating the successful business. Someone is bringing in the clients, and you can too.
Man, there's so much in that, but what a powerful statement, because I find, I'm sure you would agree, that limiting beliefs are probably, if not right at the top, two, as far as things that really hold people back from experiencing their very best life. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. And it's one of the things that makes me the most sad, because there's no reason for that. We can move past it. We can live life differently. And yet so many people, it's like their dreams are held hostage by their mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, and most of it is based on a false premise. It could have been a message in passing from an aunt or uncle, you know what I mean? And they internalize it and then they accept it as their own belief. And one of the things I talk about is we need to consistently reassess our current belief systems. And, whether it's identifying those biggest limiting beliefs that we hold, but all our belief systems as it relates to how we view ourselves and view our world. And ask ourselves, is this my belief or belief that was passed on to me that I accepted as a truth? And then identifying what your truth is. And it kind of gets back to what you were saying is, why not me? Because then once you identify that, this isn't really necessary, then why wouldn't I deserve having the nicer house or, like you said, building the business that you really want to create? So I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. And there's just no reason. I like our motto at I Heart My Life is anything is possible. And I believe that our desires are dropped in and that they're meant for us. And the really cool thing is when you accept your desires as truth, it's not even a question. It's not like, oh, can I do it? It's simply, I have this desire. Okay, great. That means that the potential for me to fulfill that is already here. Otherwise, I would not be aware of this desire.
Sure. Okay, so limiting beliefs. What else? So is there another key or two as far as that you really drilled down on as far as helping people transform into highly successful entrepreneurs or business people?
I think it's just a matter of taking action as well. So one of the things that we see happen all the time within the online space is just allowing fear to hold you back from taking action. Obviously, we all know that there are steps that we can take to become more successful, and yet we're not taking that action. So I really love the Mel Robbins sort of methodology where she has the 5-second rule, and it's literally just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take action, and recognizing that your mind is not always telling you the truth. It's just like, say, you have this big health goal. I personally have been really focused on my fitness this year. And even though I now know all the information, there's still mornings, pretty much every morning, where I wake up and my mind tries to talk me out of getting on that Peloton bike. But I know that I don't have to listen to my mind and that it's just stuck in a certain way of thinking. And so I have to really transform my mindset and think about the results that I'm going to get from getting on the Peloton and think about the benefits of me doing that exercise and focus on that so that it creates me getting into action and forward momentum. And I think so often people are they're just stuck in the mindset of staying stuck, and they allow their mind to rule them and forget about what taking action will do for their business, for their life, for their health. And it's almost like we need to develop a strength to not believe our mind and to really focus on the outcome that we want to create. And if action is required to create that outcome, then not even think about it. Just literally 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take action, get in motion, and hit those goals.
Emily, how important is accountability in this entire process? Now, obviously you're a coach, I'm a coach. So we know that accountability can go a long way in helping people get to where they want to go. But does everyone need a coach to help hold them accountable, or certain people strong enough to do it on their own?
Well, I personally think everyone needs a coach, and I have multiple coaches. And I think you need to be honest with yourself about what it's going to take to get to the next level. And excuse me, for some people, they need multiple coaches, they need a group, they need something that's going to help hold them accountable. But I also find that coaching, it shifts your energy. I feel like the person you become when you invest and when you make the decision to work with a coach, it's like going from somebody who's dabbling to actually going in and being that person who's all in. And that's really what I see is required, especially, in the online space and starting a business and being financially successful, is you have to be all in. And if you're dabbling, then you're giving out dabbling energy and you're going to get dabbling results. And so when I encourage people to sign up for coaching, obviously I want to make sure that it's the right fit. They're going to get the information they need. But oftentimes you see the transformation happen literally with them making the decision. And that's one of my favorite pieces of this whole thing, is seeing someone go from potentially fear about making the decision or paying the money or whatever it is, and doubt about whether they can do it, to making the decision, going all in, making the payment, joining the group. And literally within that second, their energy starts to shift and they realize, I'm supported, I'm confident, I'm going all in. This is a huge sign to the universe that I'm doing this. And everything starts to change from that moment.
It's absolutely true. I mean, there's literally a shift. There's an energy shift, a vibrational tone shift internally, then externally, right? Because what we put out, we get back. And so, that act of, or that concept of taking action begins to already pay dividends immediately. So I love that concept. Very, very important. And I'm glad you brought that up. Can you think of someone who's listening to this today, who's never thought about working with a coach, or is just starting their journey to self-awareness and self-improvement, and they're thinking of getting started. What did you do when you got started? What advice would you give to someone?
Well, definitely hiring someone to help me. So I think that, and this is not just to plug coaching, but I want people to really understand that any other time you're looking to get good at something, you hired somebody to help you. And that could be being in a class in college or university. It could be being a part of a team where you had a coach that helped you improve your skill set. And so for some reason, people think, or I see people thinking, that running an online business, becoming a coach is just something they can do on their own. And that doesn't make any sense to me. And that's what I quickly realized as someone who was trying to do it on her own, that I needed the support and I needed the guidance. Otherwise, it was going to be a slow path to everything I wanted. If I wanted to be an expert, I needed to learn from experts. And so I personally, like I said, invested in working with a coach. It was a group program. And I've never been without a coach since then, because there's always another level. There's always something else to learn. So the sooner you can invest in your success, and that might mean borrowing a credit card, it might mean taking out a loan, the sooner you can do that, the better. And I just think that a lot of people see the online space and think, okay, so anyone can start a business and anyone can do this. And I used to tell people, if I can do it, you can do it too. And there's nothing special about me. And I do believe that if I can do it, other people can do it. But I do think there's something special about me. And that is that I choose to show up. I get the support. I've spent over 500 grand on my own personal and professional development to date in the last 7 years. And I'm willing to be educated. I'm willing to learn from others who have come before me. And so really model those people who have what it is that you want. I'm not saying you need to spend 500 grand, but think about what other people are doing. And the world's most successful people, they have guidance, they have educators, they have coaches in their corner who are showing them step by step how to get the results they want.
Fantastic. So it's obvious how passionate you are about helping people. What else are you passionate about?
I'm definitely passionate about helping women create financial freedom. So I know that a lot of people come to us and they want to start a business. They want to have impact. They want to use their skills to make a difference. And I absolutely love that. And a lot of people come to us and they want to make a lot of money. They want to be able to allow their husband or their spouse to leave their job so they can pursue their own dreams. I'm not allowed to say retired, by the way. James hates when I say that because he's not retired. But when I became more successful, that did allow him to leave a 12-year career and pursue his passion. And it's created a lot of freedom for us to be able to have choice in our life and to live where we want to live and, continue to dream about what that next level is. And I think so often, especially as women, we're taught we're bad with money, that we shouldn't talk about money. And obviously that's across the board. So many of us still grow up with that mindset. So really just opening up the conversation about what it is that you really want to create in your life and helping you make it happen. And that requires removing a lot of those limiting beliefs. It requires transforming your money mindset, getting real with yourself about what it is that you actually want. And so I'm really passionate about that, in particular for women, because I think when we become more successful, then there's so much more freedom and choice that's available.
Tell me, what's one lesson you would share? If you knew this back then, it would have been a game changer. I mean, you've already been incredibly successful, but like if this one lesson, if I knew back at 16, oh boy, could I have been even that much more successful?
Yeah, it would be trust. I think I spent so much time just worried about the future, worried how it was going to all work out. And I could have had a lot more fun. I could have spent a lot less time crying in the bathroom at school and just recognized that it was all happening as it was meant to. And I didn't have anything to worry about.
So you're talking like trust the process or trust in people or both?
Trust my life. Trust that everything's happening the way it should. And I don't have to worry. I don't have to stress that I'm doing something wrong. I don't have to stress if the boy doesn't like me or, it's just all happening as it's meant to.
Sure. How do you continually empower your dreams? I know you're very ambitious. How do you keep stoking and fueling and empowering your dreams?
I've been asked this question before, and to be honest with you, I don't have the best answer, so I apologize in advance. But I believe that my dreams, I don't need to stoke the ambition. Like they just exist. And I think that other people will recognize that there are certain things in your life that keep coming up over and over and over again. And they're going to come up until you actually do something about it. And that's what I realized, when I started I Heart My Life was like this coaching bug. It was obvious to me that it really lit me up. And it was my duty to follow that feeling, follow that desire, and take the action. And yes, there are days where maybe it's more challenging than others. And I remind myself what I'm doing. And I really have developed a love of challenge, which sounds crazy to say. But now I know that with every challenge, it's literally preparation for the next level. And I believe that it's really all in your perspective. If you have something that's calling you, I mean, you can't not do it. And so it's your duty to get better, to become stronger, to be smarter, to put yourself out there more. And so that's really what I focus on is just that thing that's calling me. And I know it's my purpose. So it doesn't really require much, stroking, but it does require, me transforming my mindset and continuing to grow with every chapter.
So I know you say you do a lot of coaching. What else do you do to nourish your mindset on a daily basis?
I love listening to podcasts. So I'm a big listener of podcasts. I love reading. I mean, really anything in the personal development space. I love absorbing new content and then obviously having something to share with our audience and bring to the table on a continuous basis. So those are the main methods. And obviously before COVID, James and I attended a lot of events. We hosted events. I'm sure that will be coming back around. But yeah, so mainly podcasts and books for me.
Fantastic. Yeah, those are great resources, no question. Tell us about your podcast.
So yeah, I have a show called the I Heart My Life Show, and we bring on incredible guests like yourself who share their story and their journey to creating success. And one of my favorite things to have our guests share is one way that they recommend our listeners create a life better than their dreams, because that's really what our movement is all about. It's about anything is possible and creating a life and business that's better than your dreams. And it sounds cheesy to say, but our mind can truly only take us so far. It's pulling from the past to predict the future. And so all of us are really approaching life with a limited view of what's possible. And so my favorite thing is seeing women say that they don't even recognize their own life, and they've created a business that so far exceeds what they thought was possible. And they're stunned by their current reality. So I absolutely love that. And so in addition to the guests, I also do teaching episodes. So we have a new episode that's released twice a week. One is teaching and one is an interview. And so there's lots of incredible content. I dive into money mindset, moving past your fears and doubts into action. I did a few episodes highlighting my own health journey this year, which was a huge thing for me. And we're talking more about team building. So as we scale, the content definitely scales as well. But it's great for new business owners, as well as people who want to scale their current business, and really anyone who's looking for some incredible information about shifting your mindset and creating more success.
So I would highly recommend Triple P Nation, check out Emily's podcast, I Heart My Life. Is it on all podcast apps?
Yep. It's the I Heart My Life show.
Got it. Great. So this has been a lot of fun, incredible amount of information. I knew it would go fast, but my listeners, I would highly encourage to go back and re-listen to this episode, because there was nugget after nugget, and you just give one and you're on to the next one. So to really consume it and to process it, sometimes on great episodes like this, you really need to listen a couple different times. And of course, right, great content should flow through us, not to us. That means we should be sharing it with as many people as possible so we can help empower their dreams and help improve their lives as well too. So Emily, as a final question, how can people find you? And because I'm sure they're going to want to.
Yeah. So our website is iheartmylife.com. You can also find us on Instagram at iheartmylife. And I also have a personal Instagram, which is I am Emily Williams. So I'm sure that they can find me there. But yeah, I'd love to hear from your listeners. If they have any thoughts on this episode, anything that resonated with them, they can also email us at info@iheartmylife.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being on today, sharing your wisdom and your passion and making a difference in the world.
Thank you.